5 Sherman tanks against dozens of German Panthers, the Germans were stunned when the impossible happened. December 16, 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The Battle of the Bulge rages as Nazi Germany launches its final desperate offensive. Oberleutnant Hans Richter commands a squadron of Panther tanks, the Reich's most advanced war machines, 75mm high-velocity guns, nearly impenetrable frontal armor, technological superiority that should guarantee victory. But Captain Richard "Dick" Alford leads just 5 American Sherman tanks into this frozen hell, outnumbered 10-1, outgunned by superior German engineering. What the Germans didn't understand was that they weren't fighting 5 tanks. They were fighting the entire American industrial machine. Behind every Sherman stood the massive production lines of Detroit, the steel mills of Pittsburgh, the relentless capacity of a democracy at war. When technology meets industrial might, when individual heroism collides with a systematic abundance, which force proves unstoppable? The answer would shatter German confidence forever. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The metallic screech of tank tracks cutting through frozen Belgian soil echoed across the Ardennes on December 16, 1944. Oberleutnant Hans Richter pressed his eye against the periscope of his Panzer Panther, watching the mist rise from the forest floor like ghostly fingers reaching toward an overcast sky. The 45-ton behemoth beneath him represented the pinnacle of German engineering, sloped frontal armor 100 millimeters thick, a high-velocity 75mm KWK-42 gun capable of penetrating any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. Richter commanded Panzer Regiment II, comprising 37 Panther tanks positioned along a ridge overlooking the village of St. Vith. Each machine cost the Reich 117,000 Reichsmarks, nearly impossible to replace in Germany's war-ravaged economy. The mechanical precision of his tank's Maybach HL-230 engine hummed with 700 horsepower, but Richter knew the sobering reality behind this technological marvel. Spare parts had become scarcer than enemy intelligence. Fuel allocation dropped weekly. Of his original 50 Panthers, 13 sat disabled in rear workshops, awaiting components that might never arrive. Through his periscope, Richter observed his gunner, Untersturmführer Klaus Weber, adjusting the main gun's elevation. Weber had destroyed 11 Allied tanks in Normandy, using the Panther's superior range and penetration power. The rangefinder indicated clear fields of fire extending 3,000 meters downslope, perfect killing ground for the 75mm gun's hypervelocity rounds. Herr Oberleutnant, Weber reported, all systems operational. Ammunition count, 42 rounds high explosive, 38 armor-piercing. Richter nodded, studying intelligence reports scattered across his map table. American forces were advancing through the forest below, but reconnaissance suggested limited armored strength, perhaps a company of Sherman tanks, easily handled by Panther's superiority. The Americans relied on mass production over engineering excellence, fielding thousands of inferior machines rather than perfecting fewer superior ones. The radio crackled with reports from forward observers. Enemy armor advancing grid reference 347-521. Estimated strength, 1 platoon, Sherman variants. Richter calculated the engagement parameters. His Panthers possessed overwhelming advantages: thicker armor, more powerful guns, superior optics, better crew training. German tactical doctrine emphasized quality over quantity. Each Panther crew represented months of specialized training, while American tank crews received abbreviated instruction before deployment. Yet something nagged at Richter's tactical consciousness. Intelligence reports mentioned disturbing statistics about American production capacity. The enemy reportedly manufactured 1,400 Sherman tanks monthly, more than Germany's entire annual Panther output. Such numbers seemed impossible, propaganda designed to demoralize German forces. The morning fog began lifting, revealing movement among the distant tree line. Richter raised his binoculars, focusing on olive-drab shapes emerging from concealment. 5 Sherman M4A1 tanks advanced in loose formation, their 75mm guns traversing left and right, searching for targets, 5 against 37. The mathematics favored German victory so overwhelmingly that Richter almost felt sympathy for the doomed American crews. Captain Richard Dick Alford climbed through the commander's hatch of his Sherman M4A1, call sign Fury 5, leading the 2nd Platoon, Baker Company, their 2nd Armored Regiment. The tank's 30-ton frame shuddered as its Continental R975 radial engine warmed up, producing 400 horsepower, less than the German Panthers they were about to face, but adequate for the mission ahead. Alford spread his tactical map across the turret's interior, studying approach routes toward Sankt Vith. His 5 Shermans, designated Fury 1 through Fury 5, carried standard armament, 75mm M3, L-40 guns with 90 rounds per tank, 30 caliber coaxial machine guns, and 50 caliber commander's weapons. The Sherman's frontal armor measured 76mm maximum thickness, respectable against most German weapons, but insufficient against Panther guns at long range. "Listen up," Alford addressed his crew through the intercom. "Intelligence confirms German armor on the ridge ahead. Panthers, probably a full company. We're outnumbered and outgunned, but we got advantages they don't." Sergeant Tommy Martinez, the gunner, adjusted his periscope. "What advantages, Captain? Those Panthers can kill us before we get within effective range." Alford smiled grimly. "First advantage, logistics. Tank Automotive Command delivered 620 new Shermans to European theater operations last week alone. Every Sherman we lose gets replaced within days. Second advantage, reliability. These machines were built by Detroit assembly workers who understand mass production. German tanks break down more than they fight. The production statistics were staggering, though few frontline soldiers comprehended their full implications. Ford's River Rouge plant manufactured 1 Sherman tank every hour during peak production. Chrysler's Detroit arsenal produced 234 tanks between 1940 and 1945. American industry delivered 49,234 Sherman variants to Allied forces, a number exceeding Germany's total tank production throughout the entire war. Staff Sergeant Mike O'Brien, the loader, chambered a 75mm armor-piercing round. "Captain, my brother works at Chrysler Tank Arsenal. Says they're building Shermans faster than we can ship them overseas." Warehouse lots filled with hundreds of finished tanks waiting for transport. Alford nodded. Third advantage, standardization. Every Sherman uses identical parts, procedures, maintenance protocols. German tanks require specialized components unique to each model. When a Panther breaks down, they need Panther-specific parts. When we break down, any Sherman part works. The radio crackled with updates from battalion headquarters. "Baker 2-6, this is Overwatch. Enemy armor observed grid 347-521, estimated strength 37 Panthers. Your mission remains unchanged. Advance and engage." Lieutenant Bobby Chen, commanding Fury 2, responded over the platoon net. "Fury leader, we're advancing into a killing field. Those Panthers will engage us at maximum range while we're still climbing upslope." Alford studied the terrain ahead. The ridge position favored German defenders, providing clear observation and fields of fire, while forcing American tanks to advance across open ground. Classic defensive advantages that German tactical doctrine exploited expertly. Fourth advantage, Alford continued, adaptability. American crews train on standardized procedures that work regardless of terrain or tactical situation. German crews train for specific scenarios. When situations change, we adapt faster. The Sherman's advantages weren't technological, they were systemic. American war production represented industrial democracy in action. Standardized designs, interchangeable components, mass-produced reliability. German production emphasized individual craftsmanship and technological sophistication, creating superior individual machines but inferior overall systems. Alford ordered his platoon forward, knowing they were advancing into seemingly impossible odds. The morning mist clung to the Ardennes Forest like a burial shroud, as two incompatible military philosophies prepared to collide. The battlefield stretched across rolling hills covered in ancient oak and pine, their branches heavy with December snow. Between the tree lines lay open fields of fire were the outcome of contrasting approaches, To modern warfare would be decided. Alford's 5 Shermans advanced in tactical formation up the Gentle slope toward the German positions. The M4A1 tanks moved at 15 miles per hour, their tracks churning through mud and snow, engines laboring under the climb. Each Sherman weighed exactly 30.3 tons when fully loaded, a weight calculated for optimal balance between armor protection, firepower, and mechanical reliability. Through his commander's periscope, Alford observed the ridge ahead. German Panthers occupied prepared positions among the tree line, their long 75mm barrels protruding from camouflaged hides. The Panther's distinctive angular silhouette, sloped frontal armor, massive turret, extended gun tube, represented the culmination of German tank design philosophy, fewer machines of superior individual capability. Richter watched the American advance through his own optics, calculating engagement ranges with Teutonic precision. At 2,800 meters, his Panther's K-Debolt K-42 gun could penetrate Sherman frontal armor with hypervelocity armor-piercing rounds. The Americans would need to close within 800 meters for their shorter 75mm guns to achieve reliable penetration against Panther armor. The mathematical advantage seemed insurmountable. German gunnery tables indicated a 94% first-shot hit probability at 2,000 meters against tank-sized targets. American doctrine acknowledged Sherman inferiority in direct engagement, recommending flanking maneuvers and coordinated attacks to overcome technological disadvantages. But neither commander fully comprehended the broader strategic context shaping their tactical engagement. Behind Alford's 5 Shermans stood the productive capacity of American industry: 20,000 workers at Detroit Tank Arsenal, 15,000 at Chrysler, 8,000 at Lima Locomotive Works. Behind Richter's 37 Panthers stood the overstretched German economy, struggling to maintain production while Allied bombing devastated industrial infrastructure. The terrain itself told the story of contrasting approaches. American forces had established supply lines extending from Normandy beachheads to forward positions, hundreds of miles supported by truck convoys, fuel depots, ammunition dumps, replacement tank pools. German forces relied on increasingly tenuous logistics, with spare parts and fuel rationed according to strategic priority rather than tactical necessity. Alford's radio operator, Corporal Danny Sullivan, monitored battalion frequencies. Fury leader, Overwatch reports additional Sherman companies advancing on flanking routes. Total American armor in sector, 43 tanks. The revelation changed tactical calculations. Richter's 37 Panthers faced not just 5 Shermans, but potentially overwhelming numbers as American reinforcements converged. German doctrine emphasized local superiority through concentration of elite units. American doctrine emphasized sustained pressure through numerical advantage and logistical endurance. At 2,200 meters range, Richter's lead Panther fired the opening shot. The hypervelocity round screamed across the battlefield at 935 meters per second, striking the lead Sherman's frontal armor with devastating impact. The tungsten core penetrated cleanly, igniting ammunition storage and killing the crew instantly. 4 Shermans remained against 37 Panthers. The odds had improved marginally, but American tactical doctrine anticipated such losses. Each Sherman crew understood their role in a larger system designed to absorb casualties while delivering overwhelming firepower through coordinated mass. The battle for Sankt Vith had begun. The first German shell struck fury, 3 with the force of a thunderbolt, sending molten metal and flame erupting through the Sherman's fighting compartment. Staff Sergeant Bill Jackson's tank lurched to a halt, smoke pouring from its ruptured hull as the surviving crew members bailed out into the frozen morning air. The hypervelocity round had punched through the Sherman's frontal armor like tissue paper, demonstrating the Panther's overwhelming firepower advantage. Alford keyed his radio immediately. All Fury units, scatter formation, use terrain masking, advance by bounds, concentrate fire on the leftmost Panthers. The remaining 4 Shermans spread across the slope, using every depression and fold in the ground to minimize their exposure to German gunnery. The tactical reality was stark. At long range, Panthers could destroy Shermans with impunity while remaining invulnerable to return fire. American doctrine compensated for this technological gap through coordinated maneuvers and overwhelming numbers. Martinez, Alford's gunner, acquired a target through his telescopic sight. Panther tank bearing 270, range 1,800 meters. Too far for effective penetration. Engage anyway, Alford ordered. Force them to button up and disrupt their gunnery. The Sherman's 75mm gun fired, sending an armor-piercing round toward the German position. The shell struck the Panther's thick frontal armor and ricocheted harmlessly into the forest, creating a shower of sparks, but causing no damage. The German tank's crew barely noticed the impact. Richter observed the American tactics through his periscope, noting their attempts to close the engagement range through rapid movement. German gunnery doctrine emphasized deliberate, accurate fire from prepared positions. The Panthers methodically engaged each Sherman in turn, their superior optics and range-finding equipment providing decisive advantages. A second Panther fired, striking Fury 2 in the track assembly. Lieutenant Chen's tank slewed sideways as its right track separated, but the crew remained operational. Chen immediately began returning fire with his coaxial machine gun, suppressing German infantry positions while his driver attempted repairs. Fury leader, "This is Fury 4, radioed Sergeant Mike Rodriguez. I can flank left through that draw. Cover my movement." Alford coordinated the maneuver, ordering Fury 1 and Fury 5 to concentrate suppressive fire on the German positions while Rodriguez advanced through a wooded depression. The Sherman's mobility advantage became apparent as it navigated terrain that would challenge the heavier Panthers. The mathematics of industrial warfare began asserting themselves. While individual Panthers possessed superior firepower and protection, their mechanical complexity created vulnerabilities that American mass production exploited. Rodriguez's Sherman carried standard replacement parts identical to thousands of other tanks. If damaged, it could be repaired using components from any other Sherman in the theater. German Panthers required specialized parts manufactured in increasingly bombed-out factories. Each disabled tank represented irreplaceable combat power, while each disabled Sherman could be restored to operation within hours using standardized logistics procedures. Martinez fired again, this time at 1,200 meters range. The armor-piercing round struck a Panther's gun mantlet, causing visible damage but failing to penetrate. However, the impact forced the German crew to halt their own gunnery sequence, buying precious seconds for American movement. "Range 1,200 and closing," Martinez reported. "Still need another 400 meters for reliable penetration." The artillery of mass production was beginning to speak. Behind the immediate battle, American logistics networks were delivering replacement tanks, ammunition, fuel, and crews to maintain sustained pressure. German forces lacked comparable replacement capacity, making each loss irreplaceable. Richter's radio crackled with reports from his platoon commanders. Panthers 7 and 12 report mechanical difficulties. Panthers 3 and 18 require immediate resupply. The technological superiority was beginning to crack under systemic pressure. Rodriguez's Sherman emerged. From the wooded draw on the German left flank, its 75mm gun traversing toward the nearest Panther at point-blank range. At 400 meters, the M3L40 gun could penetrate even the vaunted German armor, transforming technological disadvantage into tactical opportunity through superior positioning. The flanking maneuver represented pure American tactical doctrine. Accept technological inferiority. Compensate through numerical advantage. Exploit mobility to negate enemy strengths. Rodriguez fired immediately, sending an armor-piercing round into the Panthers. Side armor where thickness dropped to 50 millimeters, within Sherman penetration capability. German tank erupted in flames as ammunition storage ignited, sending the 45-ton machine's turret spinning through the air like a child's toy. The crew's screams were mercifully brief. 1 Panther destroyed, 36 remaining. Richter felt the first stirrings of tactical concern as he observed the American flanking success. German doctrine assumed technological superiority would prevent enemy forces from achieving advantageous positions. The reality proved more complex. American tanks possessed sufficient mobility and numbers to exploit terrain features that German planning had dismissed. All Panthers adjust positions to counter flanking movements, Richter ordered. Maintain overwatch on primary approaches. But moving the massive Panthers required time and fuel, both increasingly precious commodities. Each repositioning maneuver consumed diesel that might not be replaced for days. American Shermans operated with abundant logistical support, burning gasoline delivered by truck convoys from secure supply bases. The production statistics that seemed like propaganda were revealing themselves as tactical reality. Ford's River Rouge plant alone manufactured 8,685 Sherman tanks between 1942 and 1945. The Willow Run factory, originally designed for B-24 bomber production, was retooled to produce Sherman components at unprecedented rates. American industry delivered finished tanks faster than German forces could destroy them. Alford coordinated his remaining 3 operational Shermans for a coordinated assault. Fury units advance by fire and movement. 4 and 5 provide overwatch, while 1 advances to assault position. The tactical evolution demonstrated American adaptation to technological disadvantage. Rather than matching German engineering sophistication, American doctrine emphasized standardized procedures that any crew could execute effectively. Sherman crews trained on identical equipment using identical techniques, creating interchangeable tactical units. German Panther crews required specialized training on complex systems unique to their tank model. When experienced crews were lost, replacements needed extensive retraining on Panther-specific procedures. American Sherman crews could transfer between tanks seamlessly, maintaining operational continuity despite casualties. Martinez acquired another target at 800 meters range. Panther tank, direct front, hull down position behind that oak tree. The engagement represented the convergence of American industrial philosophy with tactical application. Sherman guns fired ammunition manufactured in standardized factories using interchangeable components. German ammunition required specialized production facilities, increasingly disrupted by Allied bombing campaigns. Alford's Sherman fired, striking the German tank's mantlet and causing visible armor spalling. The Panther crew buttoned up, losing visibility and reducing their firing effectiveness. A second Sherman round struck the same location, this time achieving partial penetration. The wounded Panther attempted to withdraw, but its complex transmission system, the source of the tank's superior mobility, suffered mechanical failure under stress. The sophisticated engineering that provided Panther advantages also created maintenance vulnerabilities that American mass production exploited. Target disabled, Martinez reported with satisfaction. Crew bailing out, 2 Panthers destroyed, 35 remaining. But the mathematics were shifting as American reinforcements arrived. Additional Sherman companies were advancing through the forest, bringing the total American armor strength to over 40 tanks. The battle was becoming a contest between German technological excellence and American systematic abundance, Unterscharführer. Weber frantically worked his Panther's gun controls as hydraulic fluid leaked from damaged systems, the result of repeated hits from American 75mm rounds. The tank's sophisticated fire control mechanisms, designed for precision long-range gunnery, were failing under the stress of close-quarters combat. What had begun as a technological demonstration was evolving into a mechanical nightmare. Herr Oberleutnant, Weber reported through the intercom, gun elevation drive is compromised. Manual operation only, Richter cursed as he observed 5 more American tanks emerging from the forest on his right flank. The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly as American numbers began overwhelming German technological advantages. His 37 Panthers were being systematically isolated and destroyed by coordinated Sherman attacks. The radio crackled with increasingly desperate reports from his platoon commanders. Panther 12 requires immediate evacuation. Engine fire, ammunition cooking off. Panther 7 immobilized. Final drive failure. Panthers 3 and 18 report fuel exhaustion. The logistics crisis that had plagued German forces throughout the war was manifesting at the tactical level. Each disabled Panther represented months of irreplaceable production, while American Shermans were being replaced faster than they could be destroyed. The industrial arithmetic was inexorable. Lieutenant Chen's immobilized Sherman had been repaired by his crew using standard field maintenance procedures. The damaged track was replaced using spare parts carried on the tank's external stowage, components identical to those on thousands of other Shermans. Within 30 minutes, Fury 2 was operational again. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. German Panthers required specialized spare parts manufactured in factories increasingly disrupted by Allied bombing. A disabled final drive could strand a 45-ton tank for weeks awaiting replacement components. The technological sophistication that provided combat advantages also created logistical vulnerabilities. Alford coordinated the next phase of his attack as additional American armor arrived. Baker Company's remaining tanks joined his assault, bringing total Sherman strength to 12 operational vehicles. The tactical mathematics had reversed. Germans were now outnumbered and outgunned. All Fury units, this is Fury Leader, Alford transmitted. Coordinate with Baker elements for final assault. Use superior numbers to overwhelm remaining German positions. The tactical evolution represented American military doctrine in action. Rather than developing superior individual weapons, American strategy emphasized overwhelming numbers of adequate weapons supported by unmatched logistics. Sherman tanks were designed for mass production, standardized maintenance, and rapid replacement. Rodriguez's Sherman advanced to 300 meters range, where even the standard 75mm gun could penetrate Panther armor reliably. His first shot struck the target's turret ring, jamming the massive gun and immobilizing the crew. The second shot penetrated the fighting compartment, ending German resistance. 3 Panthers destroyed, 34 remaining. But Richter could see the inevitable outcome as American reinforcements continued arriving. His sophisticated tanks were being systematically destroyed by overwhelming numbers supported by unlimited logistics. The final German advantage, crew training and tactical experience, was being negated by American adaptability. Sherman crews learned from each engagement, developing techniques to exploit Panther vulnerabilities. German crews, isolated in their superior machines, lacked the numbers to adapt effectively to changing tactical conditions. Weber fired his Panther's gun manually, achieving a direct hit on an advancing Sherman. The American tank absorbed the impact, its crew bailing out as planned by doctrine that anticipated high casualty rates. Within minutes, a replacement Sherman had assumed the disabled tank's position in the assault formation. Herr Oberleutnant, Weber reported desperately, ammunition down to 8 rounds, no resupply available. The technological superiority was crumbling under the weight of systematic disadvantage. Static crackled through Alford's radio headset as multiple American units coordinated their converging assault on the German positions. The SCR-508 radio system installed in each Sherman enabled real-time tactical coordination impossible with German equipment, which relied on more complex but less reliable communication procedures. Baker 6, this is Overwatch, transmitted battalion headquarters. Additional armor elements approaching your position. Charlie Company advancing from grid 334-518. Delta Company from 352-507. Total American armor now exceeds 60 tanks, 60 Shermans against 34 operational Panthers. The mathematical advantage had become overwhelming, but more importantly, the logistical advantage was proving decisive. American radio networks coordinated supply convoys delivering fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts in real time. German communications were breaking down under electronic jamming and equipment failures. Richter monitored American radio transmissions through his intelligence operator, recognizing the systematic approach to tactical coordination. American commanders shared information instantly, adapted to changing conditions rapidly, and coordinated complex maneuvers without the hierarchical delays that plagued German operations. Panzer Command. This is Panzer II, Richter transmitted to his regimental headquarters. Request immediate reinforcement and resupply. American armor strength exceeds intelligence estimates by factor of 4. The response was predictably inadequate. Reinforcement unavailable. Maintain position until ordered to withdraw. German tactical doctrine assumed technological superiority would compensate for numerical disadvantage. The reality proved different. American mass production created sustainable tactical advantages that German engineering excellence could not overcome. Each destroyed Sherman was replaced within hours. Each destroyed Panther represented irreplaceable combat power. Martinez acquired his fourth target of the engagement, a Panther attempting to reposition behind a farmhouse. At 600 meters range, the Sherman's 75mm gun had achieved effective penetration capability through improved ammunition and crew experience. Target acquired. Panther tank in defilade position. Permission to engage. Granted, Alford replied. Fire when ready. The armor-piercing round struck the German tank's side armor, penetrating cleanly and igniting internal ammunition. The explosion lifted the Panther's massive turret, sending 15 tons of steel spinning through the air before crashing into the farmhouse wall. 4 Panthers destroyed, 33 remaining. The attrition rate was accelerating as American numerical advantages enabled tactical innovations impossible with smaller forces. Multiple Sherman platoons were coordinating complex flanking maneuvers, forcing German defenders to divide their attention across multiple threat vectors. Rodriguez reported successful penetration of German defensive lines. Fury Leader, this is Fury 4. I've reached the ridge crest. Panthers are withdrawing in disorder, requesting permission to pursue. The breakthrough represented the culmination of American tactical evolution. Superior numbers had enabled sustained pressure that German defenders could not maintain. Technological advantages were being negated by systematic tactical coordination supported by unlimited logistical resources. Alford coordinated the pursuit phase, ensuring American forces maintained contact while avoiding overextension. All Fury units advanced to phase line blue. Maintain contact but avoid pursuit into prepared positions. The radio networks that coordinated American operations represented industrial democracy in action, standardized equipment, interchangeable procedures, and decentralized decision-making that enabled rapid adaptation to changing tactical conditions. German communication systems emphasized hierarchical control and technical sophistication at the expense of operational flexibility. Chen's repaired Sherman rejoined the assault formation, demonstrating American logistical advantages in real time. Fury Leader, Fury 2 operational and advancing to support. The systematic advantage was asserting itself across every aspect of the engagement. Steam rose from the abandoned Panther's engine compartment as Richter's crew prepared to evacuate their disabled tank. The Maybach HL-230 engine had suffered catastrophic failure, not from enemy fire, but from mechanical stress caused by prolonged high-speed maneuvering without adequate maintenance. The sophisticated engineering that provided superior performance also created maintenance requirements that German logistics could no longer support. Rodriguez's Sherman approached the abandoned German tank cautiously, his crew scanning for potential threats. The Panther sat motionless in a grove of pine trees, its long 75mm gun drooping toward the ground, like the head of a dying animal. Smoke continued pouring from various hatches, evidence of internal fires that had consumed ammunition and fuel. Fury Leader, this is Fury 4, Rodriguez transmitted. German tank abandoned, crew evacuated. Tank appears to be mechanical kill rather than combat damage. The observation illustrated the fundamental difference between German and American approaches to armored warfare. Panthers were technological marvels, but their complexity made them vulnerable to mechanical failure under sustained operations. Shermans were simpler machines designed for mass production and field maintenance by minimally trained crews. Alford approached the abandoned Panther on foot, examining the sophisticated engineering that had made these tanks so formidable. The sloped frontal armor was nearly twice as thick as Sherman protection. The gun was longer and more powerful than anything Americans could field. The optical equipment was superior to Allied equivalents, yet the tank sat immobilized by factors unrelated to combat effectiveness, fuel exhaustion, spare parts shortage, and mechanical complexity that exceeded German logistical capabilities. The same technological sophistication that provided battlefield advantages also created maintenance vulnerabilities that American mass production exploited systematically. Martinez climbed out of his Sherman to examine the German tank's interior. "Captain, this thing is like a precision watch compared to our Sherman. Everything's perfectly engineered, but there are so many complex systems that any one of them failing disables the whole tank." The abandoned Panther represented a broader strategic reality. German technological excellence was being defeated by American industrial abundance. While German factories produced small numbers of sophisticated tanks, American factories produced overwhelming numbers of adequate tanks, supported by unlimited spare parts and maintenance capabilities. Chen's crew began salvaging useful equipment from the German tank, following standard procedures for battlefield intelligence gathering. Fury leader, "I'm finding documents that might interest battalion intelligence. Production reports, maintenance schedules, fuel allocation charts." The captured documents revealed the logistical crisis plaguing German armored forces. Panther production had dropped to 12 tanks per month due to material shortages. Spare parts were allocated by strategic priority rather than tactical necessity. Fuel rations barely supported training operations, much less sustained combat. American logistics provided stark contrast. Sherman production exceeded 400 tanks monthly, with unlimited spare parts and fuel delivered by truck convoys operating around the clock. The industrial capacity that seemed impossible to German intelligence was demonstrating its tactical effectiveness in real time. Richter's abandoned tank represented more than individual defeat. It symbolized the failure of technological elitism against systematic mass production. German military culture emphasized individual excellence and technological sophistication. American military culture emphasized standardized procedures and overwhelming numbers. The philosophical difference was proving decisive. Panthers were superior individual weapons, but Shermans were superior weapon systems supported by unmatched industrial infrastructure. O'Brien examined the Panther's ammunition storage, noting the specialized rounds required for the high-velocity gun. "These shells are twice as long as our 75mm rounds, but they're also twice as hard to manufacture and transport." The abandoned tank would be studied by American technical intelligence, its secrets incorporated into future tank designs. But the immediate lesson was clear. Technological superiority without logistical support was tactically worthless. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Ardennes battlefield as American crews conducted post-engagement assessments. The statistical reality of the engagement was staggering. 5 Sherman tanks had initiated contact with 37 German Panthers. After 4 hours of combat, 28 Panthers had been destroyed or abandoned, while American losses totaled 7 Shermans with replacement tanks already en route. Staff Sergeant O'Brien tallied the engagement statistics for his after-action report. "Captain, preliminary count shows 28 confirmed Panther kills, 9 Panthers withdrawn, 0 Panthers remaining operational in sector. American losses, 7 Shermans destroyed, 3 damaged but repairable, 2 requiring major maintenance. The casualty ratio of 4:1 in favor of supposedly inferior American tanks defied conventional military wisdom. German Panthers possessed overwhelming technological advantages: thicker armor, more powerful guns, superior optics, better crew training. Yet American tactical coordination and numerical superiority had produced decisive victory. Alford studied the battlefield through his binoculars observing smoking Panther hulks scattered across the ridge. Each destroyed German tank represented months of irreplaceable production, while American losses would be made good within days through standardized logistics procedures. Martinez, what's your assessment of Panther capabilities versus Sherman performance? The gunner climbed out of his turret to stretch, considering the question carefully. Sir, one-on-one, the Panther wins every time. Better gun, better armor, better everything. But we never fought one-on-one. We fought as a system, multiple tanks, coordinated movement, radio communication, immediate replacement of losses. The tactical lesson was profound. Individual weapon superiority meant nothing without systematic advantages. German Panthers were technically superior to Sherman tanks in every measurable category, but American Shermans were integrated into a superior military system that maximized their effectiveness while minimizing their weaknesses. Rodriguez reported additional statistics from his platoon's engagement. Fury leader, my crew engaged 8 different Panthers during the action. Direct hits on 5 targets, 3 confirmed kills, 2 mobility kills later finished by other Shermans. The American tactical adaptation had been remarkable. Sherman crews entered the engagement, acknowledging their technological disadvantage, then developed techniques to exploit German vulnerabilities through coordinated action and superior numbers. Chen's radio operator monitored German communications during the withdrawal, providing insight into enemy morale. Sir, intercepted German transmissions indicate widespread mechanical failures. Multiple Panthers abandoned due to fuel exhaustion, engine problems, transmission failures. The logistical crisis that plagued German forces was manifesting at the tactical level. Sophisticated engineering required sophisticated maintenance, but German supply lines could no longer support Panther operational requirements. American Shermans were designed for field maintenance using standard tools and procedures. Battalion headquarters transmitted updated statistics covering the broader engagement. All Baker units' preliminary analysis indicates German armor losses exceed 75% in sector. American replacement tanks arriving within 6 hours. Fuel and ammunition resupply en route. The industrial arithmetic was decisive. American factories produced tanks faster than German forces could destroy them. Sherman losses were tactical inconveniences quickly remedied by mass production. Panther losses were strategic disasters that could not be replaced. Sullivan, the radio operator, compiled communication statistics for the engagement analysis. Captain, we transmitted over 400 radio messages during the action. Coordinated fires, movement orders, intelligence updates, logistics requests. Germans probably sent less than 50 total transmissions. The technological advantage in communications enabled tactical coordination impossible with German equipment. American radio networks facilitated real-time adaptation to changing conditions, while German forces operated according to predetermined plans that could not be modified rapidly. The victory represented more than tactical success. It demonstrated industrial democracy's superiority over technological authoritarianism in modern warfare. Allied intelligence analysts at SHAEF headquarters compiled their assessment of the Sankt-Vith engagement within 48 hours, recognizing its broader implications for the European campaign. The statistical summary was remarkable. American forces had achieved a 4-1 kill ratio against supposedly superior German armor using tactics that emphasized numerical coordination over individual technical excellence. Colonel James Harrison, Chief of Allied Armor Intelligence, studied photographs of destroyed Panther tanks scattered across the Ardennes battlefield. Each image represented validation of American strategic doctrine. Overwhelming industrial production could defeat technological sophistication through sustained tactical pressure. The Germans lost more Panthers in this single engagement than their factories can produce in 3 months, Harrison observed to his staff. Meanwhile, American losses will be replaced within 1 week through normal logistics procedures. The intelligence analysis revealed broader patterns in German armored operations. Panther mechanical reliability averaged 60% during sustained operations compared to 85% for Sherman tanks. German crews required specialized training that averaged 8 months per qualified tank commander. American crews achieved operational proficiency in 12 weeks using standardized training procedures. Major Patricia Williams, the statistical analysis officer, compiled production data that illustrated American industrial advantages. So current American tank production is 1,400 Shermans monthly across all variants. German production is approximately 40 Panthers monthly, assuming no disruption from bombing campaigns. The mathematical superiority was staggering. American industry could replace total German Panther production in 1 day. German industry required nearly 1 year to replace the Panthers lost in a single engagement at St. Vith. Field reports from multiple sectors confirmed similar tactical patterns. German technological advantages were being systematically negated by American numerical superiority and logistical endurance. Panthers were superior individual weapons, but Sherman formations were superior weapons systems. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Chen, no relation to Tank Commander Bobby Chen, analyzed captured German documents revealing the enemy's logistical crisis. German maintenance reports indicate 40% of available Panthers are non-operational due to spare parts shortages. Fuel allocation allows only 50 kilometers monthly training per crew. American logistics provided stark contrast: unlimited spare parts, abundant fuel, continuous replacement of equipment and personnel. The industrial capacity that German intelligence dismissed as propaganda was proving tactically decisive across multiple fronts. Captain Sarah Rodriguez, sister of Tank Commander Mike Rodriguez, compiled morale assessments based on prisoner interrogations. German Panther crews report declining confidence in equipment reliability. Multiple crews abandoned operational tanks due to anticipated mechanical failures rather than actual combat damage. The psychological impact of industrial warfare was undermining German technical advantages. Panther crews understood that disabled tanks might not be repaired for months due to spare part shortages. Sherman crews knew that damaged tanks would be replaced immediately through standard logistics procedures. Harrison's final assessment reflected the strategic implications of tactical innovation. The St. Vith engagement demonstrates that American industrial democracy can defeat technological authoritarianism through systematic application of overwhelming resources. Individual weapon superiority is meaningless without logistical sustainability. The intelligence analysis influenced Allied strategic planning for subsequent operations. Rather than attempting to match German technological sophistication, American doctrine would emphasize numerical advantage and logistical endurance. The path to victory led through Detroit factories rather than design laboratories. Williams compiled the final statistical summary. American tank strength in European theater increases by 350 vehicles weekly through replacement and reinforcement. German tank strength decreases by 200 vehicles weekly through combat losses and mechanical failures. The arithmetic of industrial warfare was inexorable. American abundance would overwhelm German excellence. Through sustained tactical pressure, the walls of the Pentagon's Industrial Planning Office displayed charts that told the story of American victory in stark mathematical terms. Production statistics from Detroit, Chicago, and a dozen other industrial centers revealed the systematic advantages that enabled 5 Sherman tanks to defeat 37 German Panthers through sheer industrial overwhelming. General Henry Patterson, Chief of Army Industrial Planning, briefed congressional leaders on the strategic implications of mass production. Gentlemen, the Schlacht von St. Vith demonstrates that American industrial capacity has fundamentally altered the nature of modern warfare. We're not just outproducing the enemy, we're redefining what production means. The primary chart showed monthly tank production by nation: United States 1,400 units, Germany 40 units, Soviet Union 800 units, Britain 200 units. American industrial output exceeded all other combatants combined, creating sustainable tactical advantages that no amount of technological sophistication could overcome. Congressman Richard Morrison from Michigan studied the production figures with obvious pride. General, my district includes 3 major tank production facilities: Workers there understand they're not just building machines, they're building victory through American industrial might. The human dimension of mass production was equally staggering. Ford's River Rouge plant employed 120,000 workers producing Sherman tanks, engines, and components around the clock. Chrysler's Detroit Arsenal employed 40,000 workers operating the largest tank production line in world history. Combined with smaller facilities, American tank production employed over 500,000 workers. Senator Patricia Williams from Pennsylvania examined quality control statistics. General, how do we maintain reliability standards while producing at such unprecedented rates? Patterson pointed to standardization charts showing component interchangeability across Sherman variants. Senator, we've revolutionized manufacturing through systematic standardization. Every Sherman uses identical transmission components, identical electrical systems, identical ammunition. German tanks require specialized parts unique to each model. The standardization advantage enabled tactical innovations impossible with German equipment. American crews could transfer between tanks seamlessly, maintaining operational continuity despite casualties. German crews required extensive retraining when switching between Panzer IV, Panther, and Tiger variants. Morrison reviewed logistic statistics showing American supply chain efficiency. General, these numbers indicate we're delivering replacement tanks faster than German forces can destroy them. Is that mathematically sustainable? More than sustainable, Patterson replied. Current production rates would enable us to replace every tank in the European theater within 60 days while simultaneously building strategic reserves for Pacific operations. The industrial planning charts revealed American strategic advantages that German planners could not comprehend. While German industry struggled to maintain 40 Panthers monthly, American industry was expanding production capacity to meet increased demand. Victory was becoming mathematically inevitable. Senator Williams examined comparative production costs. General, what's the unit cost differential between Sherman and Panther tanks? American Sherman, $44,500, including spare parts and training ammunition. German Panther, $117,000, not including spare parts or training costs. We can field nearly 3 Shermans for the cost of 1 Panther, and our tanks come with unlimited logistics support. The economic dimension of industrial warfare favored American democracy over German authoritarianism. Free market production methods proved more efficient than centralized planning. While democratic worker motivation exceeded authoritarian coercion, Patterson's final briefing chart showed projected production through 1946. Gentlemen, current expansion plans would enable 2,000 Sherman tanks monthly by year's end. At that rate, we could equip every Allied division with complete armor replacement every 90 days. The industrial democracy that German propaganda ridiculed was proving superior to technological elitism in every measurable category. American workers building adequate weapons in overwhelming numbers were defeating German craftsmen building excellent weapons in inadequate numbers. The charts told the story of inevitable victory through systematic abundance. The White Marble Cross stood, among hundreds of others, in the American cemetery at Henri Chapelle, Belgium, marking the final resting place of Staff Sergeant Bill Jackson, commander of Fury 3, killed during the Sankt Vith engagement. The simple inscription read, William H. Jackson, Michigan, 1922-1944. He died for freedom. Captain Alford knelt before the cross on a cold February morning in 1945. 2 months after the battle that had demonstrated American industrial supremacy over German technological excellence. The victory at Sankt Vith had been replicated across multiple fronts as American mass production overwhelmed enemy forces through systematic numerical advantage. Behind Jackson's sacrifice lay the story of industrial democracy triumphant. The Sherman tank that carried him into battle was manufactured by workers at Detroit Tank Arsenal, men and women who understood that their labor was building victory through overwhelming abundance rather than individual technical excellence. Alford reflected on the broader implications of their tactical success. 5 Sherman tanks engaging 37 German Panthers should have resulted in American defeat, according to conventional military wisdom. Instead, superior numbers, coordinated tactics, and unlimited logistics had produced decisive victory against technologically superior opponents. The cemetery's 7,992 graves represented individual sacrifice, but they also represented systematic victory. Each fallen soldier had been equipped with weapons produced by American industrial might: standardized rifles, interchangeable ammunition, mass-produced equipment that enabled tactical coordination impossible with German systems. Martinez approached the gravesite, carrying a wreath from their tank crew. "Captain, the boys wanted to honor Jackson's memory. He died proving that American workers can build victory faster than any enemy can build defeat." The philosophical dimension of their victory extended beyond military tactics to democratic principles. American industrial production was powered by free workers motivated by democratic ideals rather than authoritarian coercion. German production relied on slave labor and centralized planning that proved less efficient than capitalist competition. Rodriguez joined the memorial service, carrying statistics from the broader European campaign. "Sir, final tallies show American tank production exceeded German tank losses by factor of 8 throughout 1944. We're building victory faster than they could destroy it." The mathematical reality validated democratic industrial capacity over authoritarian technical excellence. American factories had outproduced German engineering through systematic application of mass production principles pioneered. In civilian industry, Chen's crew arrived carrying additional wreaths from other tank units that had benefited from lessons learned at St. Vith. "Captain, Baker Company wanted to honor Jackson's contribution. His sacrifice taught us how to defeat superior enemies through superior systems." The tactical innovations developed during their engagement had been incorporated into standard American doctrine. Coordinated movement, numerical concentration, and logistics sustainability became standard procedures for engaging German armor throughout the final months of the war. Sullivan placed a small American flag beside Jackson's cross. "Sir, my father works at River Rouge plant. Says they're still building Shermans for occupation duties and Pacific operations. The production line that built Jackson's tank is still building victory. The industrial system that enabled their tactical success was transitioning to peacetime production, but the lessons remained relevant. American democracy had proved that free peoples, properly organized and equipped, could defeat any tyranny through systematic application of overwhelming resources." O'Brien read the inscription on Jackson's cross aloud. "He died for freedom." The simple words encompassed both individual sacrifice and systematic victory, personal heroism supported by industrial democracy that made victory mathematically inevitable. The White Cross stood as testimony to both human cost and democratic triumph, honoring sacrifice while celebrating the system that made victory possible through American abundance overcoming authoritarian excellence. If you enjoyed the story, I hand-picked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.